The game starts long before the game starts. And warm hands are faster hands. Gain the upper hand and power up your pregame warm-up with Zippo hand warmers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the final best of three here in VALORANT Challengers North America Stage 1. And everything on the line for 4 teams, even though 2 are only playing. There's a lot up in the air right now. Uber, Sierra, Shift here. I mean, Shift, that last series too, that was for the first place spot. We got to see so much coming out. I mean, this is a high intensity day.
Yeah, I mean, is it appropriate to say we go from first to worst? Huh?
No, it is not. It is not.
Statistically, by the numbers, yes.
No,
Okay.
the thing about it is, and the way that I think Mitch, you said this was like, we've got 2 matchups where both of the sets of teams that are playing are right next to each other in the standings. Just happens to be that, you know, we had the top of the group, and now we have tried to fight off relegation on the other side of the group. So it should be a good game regardless. Just maybe it'll look a little different.
Yeah, we'll go to the standings. So it doesn't look like what Shift is saying is so mean when he says from first to worst here. Because when we are looking at the standings, I mean, technically we are looking at the last place teams here.
It's just factually correct,
okay,
you know?
Okay, we're moving on from that part. We are still looking at Group B over here. It's going to be Winthrop University going up against the Glazers. But when you're looking at the bottom 2 teams on the other side here, Uber, with YFP and Thinking Men, their fate lies in the hands of this series.
Yeah, we have a number of corollaries that come out of like any sort of different result here. I think it's important to note that we have a map differential there on the right-hand side, but that is not a round differential. Both Winthrop and the Glazers are at minus 35. So again, all you do here is win and you will go up. Again, we're going to look at their head-to-head standings as a first tiebreaker before even having to worry about rounds. But that still does matter for the outcomes of some of these other teams here.
Yeah, well, we actually made a little graphic to make it really, really easy for anyone watching, and also ourselves here, on all the different outcomes that could be coming out from this series. So simply put, if Winthrop can just get this win, they're in, and they're going to be pulling along YFP with them, and it's going to be Thinking Men and the Glazers that are going to be relegated. If all of a sudden Winthrop lose, well, then we get into a interesting place here, Shift, especially too with how they lose, because that is actually going to change things up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the teams that are playing, Winthrop just needs to not get blown out, and they control their own destiny. The only way Winthrop doesn't make it in, and the only way the Glazers make it in, is with the 2-0 result favoring the Glazers. But like you said, there are a different set of circumstances in terms of the other group. YFP are the biggest Winthrop fans this side of the Mississippi. Like you mentioned, any win from Winthrop gets them in, and it also pulls YFP with them. But any loss from Winthrop pulls YFP out and Thinking Men in. So there are a set of circumstances here, you know, where it comes to what each of these 4 teams are essentially rooting for or hoping for. But for the teams that are involved, for Winthrop, it's just win a map and you find yourself in. Glazers would have to be perfect here to do the unthinkable, which is go from a winless team to all of a sudden in the midseason cup.
Yeah, important to point out, I was just spreading misinformation on the internet. Our tiebreaker rules don't actually put the Glazers out of relegation if they win in a 2-1. So even that kind of that head-to-head is pretty important because we're looking pretty closely at maps outside of, you know, the Glazers just sort of managing to beat Winthrop in general. So that's worth bearing in mind. It's got to be a 2-0 to get the Glazers qualified. That is the only outcome with which they can stay in this Group B. And of course, you mentioned YFP are looking on with great interest.
100%. And hey, don't feel bad about any misinformation, because honestly, looking at this, it ended up being where we don't get head-to-head because we're involving teams from the other group. So as soon as we pull in the other group, it's a family affair and things get a little wonky up in here. But we're going to focus on the first outcome here, which is Winthrop University, if they just get this win. And talk a little bit more about this Winthrop University roster here. This is the roster too. This is the first collegiate team that's made their way into Challengers, which has been impressive. They definitely have some stacked competition up against them, Shift. So seeing them at this current record, I mean, we'll give it a little take.
Yeah, I that's the very easy way of putting it. I mean, because, hey, they're now the only team that's beaten the number 1 team of the group. Beat Turtle Troop. So, you can kind of
yeah.
ride on those laurels a little bit here if you're Winthrop. But I think the really fun thing about talking to Winthrop and hearing from them was off of the reactions, just like, yeah, we may be a CVAL team to start, but like we're a Challengers team now. And I feel that people are just sleeping on us for all of the wrong reasons. Like this is one of the more creative teams going through the qualifiers to make it into Challengers in the first place. And they found success pulling that off as well. I think the thing about it is for Winthrop is, hey, they are also the most stretched team when it comes to their responsibilities day in and day out, because they're also full-time active students and they also play in CVAL. So, how do you kind of prioritize one thing or the other? And for Winthrop, that's been steady progress. It just hasn't resulted in the net W's that they've hoped for, which I think is obviously the big key here leading into this series.
At least they've been getting the reps in, because they have CVAL actually going on now, and they're playing as just as recently as a few days ago, even though it was minus, I believe, Infiltrator and having Ranchies on the roster instead. But I mean, you're right, Chip. There are so many different ways that this team is kind of pulled all directions, and I think all things considered, what they've stepped up and shown us here in Challengers has been really, really cool. And they are here, Uber, pretty close to actually just sealing their own fate and having their first split in Challengers result in not being relegated.
And I think that's worthwhile calling a success for all the reasons that you guys mentioned. And for the fact that, competing at this tier for the first time, putting a collegiate team on the map in a big way here, and remaining and even being allowed to play amongst this sort of incubator of talent and have a chance to turn up at the mid-season tournament and in stage 2 and continue to improve from there, because that's what we've seen from this team. They have been able to grow in leaps and bounds. And I'd say, despite some off-the-wall agent selection from this team, trying a couple of interesting things, they are very, very solid. Jerk last week had a really good showing, especially just as an anchor player in general, and that winning against Turtle Troop is a pretty significant. The Sunset showing against M80 was horrendous. And that's obviously something that they, look back on thinking, man, we really didn't have it figured out for this kind of map. M80 are a very clean team. Like we said, you've got to be very polished if you're going to take it to them, like we just saw in that previous game. Whereas the Glazers, I would say, are much rougher around the edges, as was exposed in their own matchup against M80 a few weeks ago too.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about the Glazers roster here, because this is the team that is currently 0-4 here in Split 1, and it's been rough. I mean, yeah, you said it, Pharrell. They're a little rough around the edges. I think they've had a little bit of a difficulty kind of finding their footing here, Shift, going on in this first split. Yeah,
and it's just like one of those teams that we've had kind of like this in the past where, on paper, you would think that these guys could definitely fight and possibly be in a position to not just stay away from relegation, but maybe even contend near the top, because we've seen great individual moments across a variety of different squads for everyone on this team. It just has not come together, though, for these guys. And I think in particular, their ability to close out games is absent, just flat out. They have not been particularly good when we get into the tight moments where, hey, it's going to be full buy versus full buy. Maybe not a lot of ultimates left available for either team. So just, play good, straight up vanilla Valorant. And they just have not really provided that for us through and through. I think that series versus SAD, even though we're watching a lot of their highlights, to their name, finding themselves on the right side of the kill feed, they were getting worked on the map. On the macro level, it felt like almost at every single turn on Sunset in particular. So it's just very bizarre to see the significance of the names not match up as a full 5-man squad and find collective wins.
Very true.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we talked about, when we were talking about Winthrop, we talked about how strong a lot of the talent is here, and that if you're not quite stepping up to the plate, it is going to be looking bad. I'm hoping for the Glazers' sake here in week 5 that they're able to reflect on that past series that they've had where that has looked a little bit rough, and maybe we can see some of these rounds being closed out a little bit stronger fashion, but I'm intrigued with what we're going to get out of this series. And for the map picks and bans where we're going to be headed for this series, I think it's going to be fun when we're looking at both of these teams. I think when we were looking at their earlier series with M80 and Turtle Troop, we know what we're expecting once we get into the maps. We know what agent compositions that are not really changing things up too often here. Whereas this one, Uber, I mean, we definitely have on tape what they've been doing, but sometimes things change a little bit and some of these picks a little unorthodox.
No, well, I mean, some of the bans are kind of odd. I think Winthrop avoiding Breeze is fair. I think their comp is a little I would not say it's exactly clean there. That's the sort of Yoru that we saw them try and play on their map. And prior, they were playing a bit of Reyna. I think the Glazers banning Bind is very odd because that's the map they actually beat Turtle Troop on. The one map that they've actually won in Challenges against the best team in this group, they have banned. So, I mean, that for me is definitely curious. Seeing Sunset as a decider, I think will definitely throw things into an interesting situation. We've seen Winthrop on Icebox before.
Yep.
Not exactly in the most auspicious of occasions here. So, the Lotus game I think will be interesting. I mean, both these teams have a decent number of reps and run. But I just want people to remember that Lotus is a map that Winthrop beat Turtle Troop on. They beat Sad Esports on it. And they also took M80 very, very close. Like, they are no slouches on that map. So the Glazers, they lost that map when they played against Turtle Troop. So, if you flip these names, it would make more sense to me, honestly.
I want to talk about the fact that for Lotus 2, like for Winthrop, that this Lotus has been really, really strong because calling back to the relegation outcomes, Winthrop, a win by any means is good, but the Glazers here, even a 2-1 victory in their name isn't actually good enough. Like, yep. They need a 2-0. So the fact that we're headed to Lotus to kick things off, I think is definitely really, really scary. We're definitely going to have to see them in top shape today. We're going to be taking a quick break as the players get settled. But after this, it is going to be the Glazers going up against Winthrop University.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. Yes, we're about to head into our last match of the day, the last match of the stage. That's right. It's the Glazers versus Winthrop with a lot on the line. The Glazers, Alan, need a 2-0 to stay alive and avoid relegation.
Yep, that's everything for if you're a Glazers fan. 2-0. 2-0 or bust. You find yourself down and out, missing out on the midseason cup. For Winthrop, one map does the trick to keep yourself in, and then extenuating circumstances for YFP and Thinking Men in the other group, thanks to the tiebreaker situations that would come through in terms of map count and round count and all the other things that I don't get paid to do. So we let League Ops handle that. Let's take a look, though, as we get into Lotus rep number 1 of the agent compositions. And hey, how about it? Just kind of looking at it right off the get-go. Got something a little bit different cooked up here for the side of the Glazers. They've been largely relying on the Gecko Astra in the past. This is a brand new look for them.
Yeah, good to see a bit of a change up here. I think like the last time they kind of played this was almost a month ago. So they've had a little bit of time to work on their Lotus here. And what a time to have something new to show. Because like you mentioned, and the reason why the Glazers winning here against Winthrop with any result wouldn't sort of save them is because they're actually not, in the overall standings of challenges, they're not right next to each other. So we would only use that tiebreaker of their head-to-head if they were like, you know, locked in the overall standings of the 10 teams, not just the 5 from their group is a decent way of explaining it. So yeah, the Glazers need to do a whole lot here. Winthrop have the fates of a couple of teams in their own hands, including their own, to be fair. But it's now time to show us that level of play that allowed them to topple the Turtle Troop up against a team like the Glazers, who also are scrappy, rough around the edges kind of roster here. Let's see who has a cleaner Lotus.
Yeah, and that is the big question because it's, you know, mere matchups, first of all. So this really comes down to who executes better. I think that's the easiest way of kind of framing up the 1-for-1. On the flip side of things, though, a lot more experience built into this composition for the side of Winthrop. They have largely not strayed away from this comp at all, save maybe, you know, earlier in March, they swapped against playing Fisher with a different comp, trying something new out, and that didn't go so well. So, yeah, definitely some familiarity here for Winthrop on their map selection. But the Glazers cooking up something new, very standard, definitely lots of film to look at to kind of add arsenal plays into their playbook here, jumping into this pistol.
Okay, thinking about this B site to start with, again, less utility from the defenders on a round like this, so maybe you fancy your chances a bit more. But they feign aggression there. They pulled everybody from the Glazers off of that C site. There's not even a skerrick of utility from that Killjoy of precision to rely on. I want to point out Zachary here on the Rays. Quite often see him on the Cypher or generally on the Sentinel role. And here's a good example of you being able to scale forward off of the C side, right? If you can do it in numbers, if you have a full 5, you can really try and overextend into this part of the map, but it does hurt them.
Yeah, the Paranoid doesn't quite get as much value as you're hoping for. Dark cover also kind of concealing some of these other pistol players on the offense post plant. Trades are decent. Zach for 4. And now it's just down to Jerk, who gets caught right in the front doors. Zach almost takes himself out of the picture, but plenty of time to collect the defuse. And how about that? Zach just kind of bailing out the Glazers from what was a very nice little rewrap back through B to C for Winthrop's opening pistol attack.
And what else is new for this absolute gun? I think we saw a pair of legs there start to peek in through that dark cover, and it looked like Winthrop might have an advantage there just off info, but Zach was very, very clean with the pistol. Refusing to lose today. And that performance in that first round can get him into a Vandal and small shields. Pretty decent to play around this kind of rifle if you can maintain it.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's one of those things, like, when we've watched Winthrop on this map in the past, they are a team that I feel like, the word I want to go to is they're a very calculated team. Like, they're all about trying to read where the advantages are, dissecting what is the best available option for us, and then trying to use that as kind of like a, I don't want to say a game of chance, but they play into the probabilities maybe of, okay, we can create this space. That means that we know for a fact we're going to have a chance at opening up space somewhere else. But, you know, here in this round, you're just trying to make it as punishing as possible for the Glazers and not a good opener, as moves will drop almost immediately.
Great feeling for timing, though, Zachary has there. And I think it's the presence of the Vandal over at A that tells Winthrop that that is a no-go for the time being. Precision obviously takes a couple hits there. Attempted to find some damage from Mound, but trades that damage back in equal measure. Turret has been removed here. I think Nazi did identify that there was a nano swarm on the ground.
Yeah, this is just such a laborious approach. I mean, with just pistols, it's so hard to clear out these tight corners. And losing moves kind of gets them, you know, they're kind of blindfolded in towards these hits. You just kind of have to hope and pray that you find good timings on the entry. Dark cover will expire. Precision and still holding the crossfire setup, and they are perfect at dealing with it.
30 seconds
just
left.
Gucci, last one left. Sheriff out, right click will be there to meet up, and the Glazers will take a flawless second round, now going into what was going to be a true bonus.
See what the Viper Wall does, though. Gucci is able to keep 2 players over at A, just on that lurk potential. But the hit on towards the seaside falls absolutely flat. Zachary not at all punished for going for the Vandal there. Can continue to build that utility up around it. And something I'm noticing is that Drone is not seizing off these paint shells at the start of the round. They're not trying to combo it off the rip.
Yeah, that's a good call. And again, it is early still. We're going to start to see what the actual defense will look like once we get deeper in towards full buys and things of the nature. But the impressive start from Zach. He's going to have a hero Vandal in this bonus. And, Winthrop kind of beating aggression with aggression of their own. And that's all behind just popping up the Viper's wall. That's enough for them to get the isolated 4v2, essentially. And that's enough now for the Glazers to likely have to just see what Ange could do, last one standing.
I mean, I like this from Winthrop here, you know, especially knowing they're up against a bonus, having a pretty clean opener, and they're very, very keen to take these fights. That's going to bode well for the rest of the series here. They're not over-respecting what the Glazers are trying to make happen here over towards A-Log.
This
it really is just a forward plus a paint shell combo.
Yeah.
So Winthrop can just wait for a beat and then still push on towards that Viper's wall.
Yeah, and that's going to be, I think, a timing that Winthrop will try to use as kind of a staple through and through. When you've got these combating Viper's wall kind of dissecting the front side of A main, yeah, you've got the ability of popping yours behind a double blast pack, even if you need to throw extra smoke just to be sure. You can isolate Rebel pretty easily thanks to that wall. And then also on the top of that, you know, depending what the timing of the Glazers looks like when they want to use that wall to pop up, kind of the same circumstance. But now we're going to get a different setup. Haunt will get a lot of reveal here, but the Glazers are full diving forward through it. They do not care. They will win C Mound, and that is only just a small moment of reveal. And Ange's going to have to kind of hold strong here, wait for rotational help.
I mean, that overextension for no kills, though, means that Ange is going to have to wait an age for those reinforcements to arrive. One coming out through Baby Door here. What can Ange do is the sole anchor here. Able to avoid the paint shells, but the siege is going to be there. Still good for 2 somehow.
Yeah.
It's like Nasty and Gucci lined up for him. Here comes the plant. And of course, Infiltrator can head top side now and try and hold this angle, but only a Boombot to work with now, and here comes the Nightfall.
Yeah, really good counter with the Nightfall out. The Showstopper just kind of halted in its place. Haunt also just making sure Zach can't quite get over and up. Does he get this hit? Yeah, sure does. Connection, Infiltrator, good. And now the Glazers have numbers 4v2 in the retake.
Moves there. Actually swings into that Haunt. Gets lit for a brief moment, and they are the solo player here. Boombot just goes past him like ships in the night here. And it's going to be the Glazers back on top. That proper full buy.
Yeah, really, really nice idea, but the Nightfall just could not stop it for long enough. And I will say, just because, you know, for all of you avid fans out there, the Valorant space that were watching avidly into the first series versus the second, that commitment for Winthrop to just sit there and say, we know that at least 2 players, likely 3, push through C long. Let's just take our 5v2 on A. Even though they get doubled up, it's a great moment for the defensive Ange to be able to find 2. I still wish that like M80 would have done that in their last series of like, you know, 3 players got aggressive behind the play. Get aggressive, take your number situation towards A, try to get yourself a post plant. But, you know, that's what it is.
I mean, fair point. There's a level of decisiveness there from Winthrop, even if the execution is lacking that we did not see in that previous series. No, they're not offering too much respect, and that's something we saw really early on when they took that fight against the Glazers bonus.
Yeah.
That Phantom kind of betraying there is no connection off the mound for Jerk. Or rather, Infiltrator.
And this is interesting because this sentry turret would lead you to believe that if they're going to set up a post plant, if they get onto C, it'll be a little bit deeper on towards site. It just comes down to can they actually crack the code here. The opener onto precision is actually a great one. And that actually gives an opportunity to where Winthrop may even want to consider what B looks like. With no Killjoy in play, that entry becomes a little bit more feasible with no nanostorms available for the defense to utilize.
Again, Ange has to be the anchor player here, Alan. This time they give up the space, though, straight back into C-Halls. Against the Showstopper, you have absolutely no choice otherwise. So that gets used to make space, but you'll note here Winthrop in a 4v4 don't scale back into the site. So a very similar situation they've mostly got to play on around the spike outside of Gucci, who will deal with the flank.
Yeah, and it did look like this was a call for Winthrop. They wanted to play it deeper in towards the site, but losing Jerk, you do have to have someone on the outside, and the reveal is decent. 1v1, though, goes the way of Gucci. Now the post plant has another exit built over towards Mount.
Smoke is timed well. They've got to run ahead of it now. That's information to Winthrop. But where did the defenders come from on this retake? Now Gucci's free to swing that at his leisure. Man, it's crazy what a one smoke timing can do for you. They made enough noise to wake the dead coming up Waterfall.
No, for real. It is true because, I mean, that's like Valorant in a nutshell, especially on this map in particular with mirror matchups. Utility landing and being utilized at the correct times is everything. And I think that one is a little bit more double-folded than that because it's not just the entry for the Glazers, but it's also Winthrop winning that 1v1 towards C Mound to give them an exit of that post plant. I'm sure they don't know how many players are on that flank, but after Jerk drops, someone has to back out and make sure that you've got a little bit extra space to work with. That's a beautiful elimination coming through. We have another early piece of contact here over the top of Mound. This is legitimately just who's better. Shooting back and forth, one-way smoke will deter the fight, and we'll get out with a very aggressive game of tag being the result.
Infiltrator is struggling with these long angles with the Phantom. As the second time that again that sort of spread, the diversion to the shot there at longer ranges has hurt him. Ange holds his ground again. What a consummate anchor. Eventually there's going to have to fall, but not before he gets his. Beautiful snake bite there, and a very low health Infiltrator after losing out on that damage trade early in the round pays off. But look at how quickly the Glazers here are taking top side and drop.
Yeah, tree post plant is also set up here. This should be a great opportunity for moves to get some value out of this utility, especially against pistols.
Zachary's going to push him in. Second Prowler. It's going to get awkward once that smoke clears. Zachary swings it, loses out. Nano Swarm there is going to be destroyed before deployed. And there it is. All up to precision. Not enough time to work with there. Eventually gets brought down anyway.
Yeah. And again, the decision-making for Winthrop is always so well committed, so much trust built into the squad, and there's really no doubt. It's one of those things that's like, you have to think at certain points, whether it be through their CVAL history or here in Challengers, they had to have like a little bit of a kumbaya and be like, look, let's all commit to the call, even if it's a really bad call. Let's just all commit to it, and then we'll evaluate what the integrity of the call looked like beforehand, because yeah, I feel like, again, like the word I keep going back to is just it's so calculated. Everything they do comes with this natural assessment of where are the pros in this approach? Where are the cons? How do we mitigate some of the losses that we could potentially come with? And they're fine taking that kind of battle of attrition at times. This time it's going to be a much different round, though, in particular with the Viper's Pit being played. But there is a lockdown available for Jerk. Like, they could push off this entry towards C if they want to.
The problem is that they have to go into the pit, put the lockdown in the spot that would actually cover the C site. So all they can really do is sort of use that to clear.
My ult is ready.
It's not going to help them really with that site control. It's the Nightfall. Boombot in there as well. All right, he's going to create some space, but Ange remains inside the pit.
Oh, that's
still
massive.
no attempt at the lockdown.
Yeah, him being in this position is so key. I mean, Winthrop are going to get on towards sighted wall. Infiltrator creates the opening, finding two, most of it through smoke. And I was about to give a lot of praise that Ange kind of sidesteps everything, but once more, Infiltrator just doesn't seem to give a darn toot about what's in smoke. Still picking things apart, and Drone, last one left, is working on a 1v4, but low HP eventually gets dealt with, and Jerk will finish off the round.
Yeah, that could have gone so rough for Winthrop there, but Infiltrator, after a couple of rough starts to these rounds, just walks up on the side and finds three. Doesn't care that Ange is not going to challenge out of the pit. He can go through it with the boom bot, basically be untouched, play from behind that, and then get a really sick position that, he's able just to lock it down.
Wow. I mean, this is just a little different. And yeah, Ange is staying alive initially. I thought was going to be everything for the defense getting back into play. Sure, you're going to lose maybe a couple of members on this retake attempt, but it gives you a staging ground to get in and get in quickly to contest. But Infiltrator just does not give a darn toot, as I said, about it. Just pushes right forward, finds his first 3 eliminations in that round. And the thing about it is Winthrop still have the lockdown to play. And they're going to have... Oh, this is an old Barracks. They just used Nightfall. What are we looking at here? But I'm pretty sure they still have Killjoy ult available.
They have to gamble C, or at least they feel that way. So they move off the B side, kind of calling Winthrop's bluff here. Prowler neutralized.
You should run.
Poison orb now. Here comes that attacking lockdown. Much more appropriate roundabout use of it, even if it's not countering a Viper's Pit.
Oh, but look at the push through. Paranoia's coming out, and I love this from the Glazers. Just taking the fight right to the front doors, and they're going to come away 2 for 2, which really isn't that bad. Mitigating the lockdown. So it's a bold call, but it's one that pans out decently for the Glazers defensively.
Okay, pulling out of C now entirely. Will just be the one player Precision, obviously waiting over day long. He still can make use of the Viper wall. He did not lose Gucci in that little exchange. Yeah, this Haunt's just going to create all that space to walk up into.
And I just don't know what you pull here to retake. Again, we obviously aren't able to see what's available in terms of utility. Do they still have the paranoid? Oh, it doesn't matter. Okay, well, that takes the question out of consideration. Good shots for Moobs. Still a 3v2. Don't let your eyes deceive you. Where am I? Hello?
Well, it kind of gives away the game, really, doesn't it? Not much suspense.
Well, the thing is, it's like a round behind, Mitch. This is not accurate still. This is now the start of this round.
It is not. 3v2 here. Oh my goodness. Okay, from upper range is pretty clean. 1v2 now to try and interrupt the defense. Gucci. Can't believe it wasn't punished on that first swing, and Ange just offers it up. That is disastrous for the Glazers, especially on a round such as that. Gucci does not mind about the aftermath. The round is what he was looking for.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And again, I don't take what you see at full value here, friends. This setup that you're seeing right now on this scoreboard, that was what was used last round. So this is going to be a full gun round coming up for the Glazers, and we'll try to evaluate what tools are available the best we possibly can.
I mean, no, we're going to guess. We're going to guess is what we're going to do.
That's 100% right, yes.
So you can play along at home. Chat?
Yeah.
We are having a tack timeout here for the Glazers. Is they're going to take a moment here to settle down. Maybe we can even get the sync matched up on that. We'll let you know about that. But yeah, look, the Glazers, I don't know, man. That last round, that looked like they were in a decent spot. Like you've got a high-low set up. Yeah, one player is sticking the defuse. So that is brutal.
And I think the other part about this is like these timeouts can be really baffling because I imagine they're still like considering how things went wrong with the Viper's Pit round. But like, honestly speaking, that round is a fluke round. Infiltrator gets 2 through smoke, 1 through headboards and smoke. And those 3 kills are what win the round. Otherwise, the rest of the setup was fine. So it's like, do you really want to use that round as an evaluatory tool to decide what's going right, what's going wrong? Because honestly speaking, I think the defense has looked fine. I mean, you've made even half-buy rounds pretty darn competitive. So this has to be about ironing out whatever wrinkles they feel like they may have already felt here through the first 7-8 rounds.
Poison's off.
Gucci able to move up behind this. Whoa. Okay, trying to get out. Zachary, yep. Absolutely flattens him. And that's the other story of the A aggression here for Winthrop.
Yeah.
But Ange gets taken down. Just a swing towards B. This draws utility over there, but that's not where the action's going.
Well, yeah, Winthrop has to make a decision here. They've got a showstopper available. Yeah, so they're going to use that to drop down in and deal with the lockdown. So realistically speaking, it's showstopper for showstopper, but the play for Winthrop actually works out perfectly. Nightfall comes through deep. Paranoia to counter, though. They can stay deep here over towards backside Seaweaver.
There's no way Riku ever checks that angle after contacting a player towards Halls itself. Here from Waterfall, though, the Glazers with 3. Wow. Infiltrator gets caught out there as Drone and Precision are a well-oiled machine right now. They're going to have to do a one better, though. This time, they don't mess up that defuse. The 2 players able to face things down. The Glazers get their one back.
I mean, that's a really impressive retake and one that could be expressed by just individual gun skill. I mean, you lose out on deep at C. The Nightfall Paranoia that's supposed to cut across and help that Waterfall retake gets mitigated because of the eliminations that come deep through C. So you really don't have the status effects of the Nightfall persisting as the retake is coming from the predicted area on the retake because of where Winthrop is positioned. But the focus, the trust on who watches what on this one-dimensional angle, dealing with the players that had gotten deep, and also cleanly breaking down the site on the low ground in front of C with good smoke control, leads to a very, very clean retake, and I will just say one that is relatively unexpected considering if you were to have taken a snapshot of what that post plant looked like it was in full lockdown mode.
Yeah, great response, of course, to the Killjoy lockdown there. Something you mentioned that the 2 showstoppers used in the round. One to get you that kill, but one to basically to secure the site for you. We'll see now across the map here. 2 players up towards B, so we might have some early action just out of B main.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that, you know, the wall has changed for the defense, mind you, as well, from the Vipers' perspective. So they're looking to get aggressive towards C. And maybe there was a bit of a read that this was a different play. So Winthrop is saying, okay, well, we can't contest C. Let's just take our focus early over towards A. And, you know, both teams will essentially get what they want. And this is just all going to be down to, you know, what kind of deterrent can Precision be as the solo defender over at A. He's lost both Nano Swarms, but he still has an alarm bot guarding stairs. And you've got a nice rotation coming in with the Viper being in play here to at least help out. The only issue is this. As I say, I'm pretty sure there's a Viper spin available for the offense, and that's going to make this post fight really hard to break down.
Crowley here. This keeps Precision interested, and they're not able to respond. As Infiltrator steps in up on that high ground. Now play inside the pit here. It's going to be tough to penetrate, but the Prowlers pave the way for Ange and Riku. He wants to head towards the stairs, moves over the off angle. No one thinking about drop at the moment. Paranoid has come through now. The Fade is not in a position to respond. Nicely done there for Ange. 2v2 in the pit. Ange is decayed all the way down to 1. It doesn't matter. Jerk has to interrupt this now. We're seeing a lot of these 2v1s, 2v2s in the post plants. Jerk has to be perfect. Riku sticking. I don't know if Jerk's aware of this. Gets them off of it. And there's not enough time to defuse.
I could not explain enough how unbelievably freaking clutch Moves is. He's stuck at pit. There's absolutely nowhere for him to go. The post plant's starting to get broken down because the utility through stairs works out beautifully for the Glazers. But it's not even just the fact that he gets 2 kills. He also gains a little bit of an extra cushion with the haunt being thrown to allow Gucci to stay just a little bit more tucked into that corner by tree, because Gucci's about to drop, and he eventually does, but wow, that is so icy from Moves to pull the 1v2, get the utility in play, and make sure Jerk can stay behind the play for a literal eternity. The fact that he never gave away his position was everything for Winthrop.
Zachary getting very aggressive here over at A-Long, and it pays off. That's a gun for the young lad if he would desire it, but it's a bit risky at this time. Now with all this pressure towards C, though, we might think there's an opportunity. Can turn this into a flank. Jerk, though, deals with Rico again, trying to play forward and get some information. This is now thinning out the defenders towards the C side of the map. TP across. Infiltrator's going to be leading the charge alongside Nasi, and they'll take the trades here. Happy enough with those. Zachary's going to be too late to the action for that weapon upgrade to matter.
Yeah, and that's the big key is, you know, this takes an extra second longer. Zach is right behind the play, able to maybe create a bit of a pinch, maybe find a couple eliminations. I mean, you had an opening elimination that came through from Ange on the site. You thought maybe that was going to kind of delay things a little while longer. Good backup from Precision just to kind of, again, be as pesky as possible. But Winthrop just all moving forward, know exactly what it meant as soon as Zach found that kill over towards A-Long. Again, the decision-making, the trust in the call, and the flat-out commitment has worked out beautifully. It's Winthrop 6 of the last 7, and now a chance to go at 8-4 half if they could find a way to win here. But you do have an operator in play for the first time for Riku.
Yeah, I mean, they've tried so many things to shut down the C-Long play, right? There was like a Viper wall at one point to let them scale in behind that. Now the operator behind the one-way, this is definitely a no-no, but there's a Viper Spit over towards Baby Door as well. So the avenues for Winthrop, again, they're being funneled into B.
Yeah, well, the thing about it, too, is Winthrop are not fully aware that this operator's in play yet. The Paranoia comes through right through the turning doors, so that will move him off the angle, but there's still a chance where Riku just has to hit and get a follow-up bit of utility from Drone. Lockdown will not be able to be challenged this time, but Riku's going to stay until the very last second, you would think. Not the case. Drone's going to sacrifice his life here, see what he can pull. 1-for-1's not bad. We'll take that.
Lockdown goes off back into Hall's Riku play, but now that operator gets less and less relevant. This is not really where you want to be playing this from at all. Infiltrator, here's the target thrown up here. Precision ready to play off the contact of it, but he's not ready to make the swing. Infiltrator still gets one, and Nasi's there for the trade. Again, Winthrop confidently trading up into these sites. C's thrown there at Seaholes to slow Riku down, who now has the unenviable task of finding a way to pry this open with an operator.
Yeah, there's a long lurk here from Gucci, and Ange has to watch 2 things at once. Good isolation onto the first. Oh, Riku! Puts away the weapon at the worst possible time. And for the 1v2, could be a possibility for a stack. Oh my goodness, they line up. And Ange will collect the clutch and get the Glazers a 5th round before we swap the sides.
I told you this would be scrappy. I told you this would be rough around the edges, and my goodness, it has been. I guess Riki wants to try and smoke their bottom of, towards waterfall and maybe Spike take some control of him. It has to peer in there with the operator awkwardly. Doesn't have a shorty backup option. Drone here obviously trades. This swing was very good. I mean, at this point, you're feeling quite good about Winthrop here trading into this site.
Yeah.
Ange comes to the rescue with 3.
That's unreal from Ange. I mean, the awareness, like I said, like he could very easily gotten caught on that timing over towards the backside of waterfall because the lurk was really well done by Gucci. Just gets caught at the wrong time, and that leads to an opportunity, and then the double swing just isn't really in the best of positions to isolate. So Ange collects 13 and 10 half from him, and it's a hefty number of eliminations for the player largely trusted to kind of lock down a site mostly by himself. So key pistol here. You win this if you're the Glazers. You're right back to a level footing.
Ange playing real close on this wall. You have to be aware of someone tucked behind boxes here at Baby Door. But for the most part, Winthrop giving up most of the map for the Glazers to play.
Cover going out.
This is just a small show of force, but the thing about it is Winthrop's defense behind this Viper wall really doesn't care. And you got a Nanostorm that is still at the front doors, and that little fake now all of a sudden kind of gives Winthrop a bit more knowledge that, okay, that's not going to be a C hit, and everyone over towards A, the longer they stay here, the more confident that they're going to be the ones tested.
They're going to seize paint shell off the alarm bot's contact, I think. The player tucked into tree. That's nasty. They're about to get a little bit busy. Here comes that util. Coming up on the other side. My goodness. Zachary might be in trouble as well. Just hanging on down to 28 HP.
30 seconds left.
Moves now fancies a 4A off the side. Can't blame the guy. Beautiful. What an execution. Spike headed towards B already, but moves. He's in hot pursuit and finds his second now. It's Rico to fall. Unlucky for Gucci there. Seemed like they were well set up to receive this. And Tim is happening again now. Prestige in the 1v2, but the Spike is down. There's 10 seconds left in the round. And now the defenders can spread.
No charges.
Wow. I mean, there is a moment in there where you just watch Moobs' perspective and you say, man, this guy's feeling himself. He is the first one in, running and gunning with the ghost and connecting. That's the only difference maker. I mean, he's got to rotate deep from A. There's smoke in the way. There's poison in the way. And he still finds a way to catch a couple on that small door towards B. And as soon as that happens, the Glazers are stuck. There's just nowhere that they could go. They have to try to commit for some sort of a post play. And like you mentioned, they almost pulled that one back a touch with a couple of the key trades. But it's just the damage has already been dealt by Moobs. Stopping the play towards A and getting more space. Ooh, Gucci, lots of damage tallied here early. Has to back off the door. But again, this is just classic. So you're not sweating too much still if you're Winthrop.
Slow over towards A again, Ange has been. Playing right up against that wall. Oh, Prowler does see the single Viper. That's not enough to pull anybody else out of position. As the wall comes down, we might get a double swing here. Or Drone could just challenge it alone against a much better weapon. That's also fine.
Yeah, there's not a lot of options here, right? I mean, with just classics, I mean, you're trying to use your wall, but what are you really going to get with it? You still have to go through a really tough set of angles with those classics involved. So try to maybe enable an opportunity for that lurk to find more success, but that's even picked up thanks to the convincingness of the kills we had. Zach trying to maybe bait out a plant, resets, and only one kill will be tallied here. Clean follow-up from Winthrop.
Now they're starting to get their legs under them here in this second half. Make no mistake, Winthrop are in a pretty commanding position. Coming off that pistol, I think was pretty pivotal for them to continue to still try and find their lead here. So again, like a couple Spectres and Bulldogs here into the bonus. Not the most compelling tale. Obviously no really key ultimates to be tracking right now. And they might even gamble here on a push out of B.
I mean, this would be bold if you're Winthrop. If you paranoia push through into pillars, this would be an incredible read. The problem is the sentry turret here, and wow, that is, you want to talk about prediction.
They were very
Blazers were ready for that on the bonus, tell you what.
Toxin screen down.
And it might have been a tail of the tape there.
Yeah, right.
Glazers rewarded there for their preparation. And given the importance of this matchup,
Poison's on.
nobody's surprised. They made sure to get ahead of the game. So that's just the two Spectres left in play. For the Glazers now, it's a matter of just trying to make sure they can maintain as many of these weapons. Really,
One enemy remaining.
with a deficit like this round-wise, they want to keep all 5.
And I think they're going to be fine to do that. Jerk may do a little bit of window shopping to swap out the Spectre, and that's indeed the case. He'll grab a Bulldog instead. You don't really fancy that improves his chances much for a 1v5 post-plant breakdown, especially considering he's got a re-break over through Mound, but and he kills a decent kill, especially with the purchase of full Vandals on the other side. Triple peek after the little shoulder, cleans things up. So just the one kill. Blazers, I'm sure, will be fine, especially after the plant comes out.
Now we get sat up in our seats here as the buy for Winthrop. Showstopper online for Zachary. Maybe a wild playing towards A-Long here. So Taro going to be set up in Baby Door here means that you're probably not going to inhabit that space.
Yeah.
Unless you want to play off its contact. Let you sort of stack an extra player on towards the site or stairs.
And I'll be curious to see how aggressive Winthrop is planning on being here. One-way smoke already placed, but that's countered by the Blazers, throwing some of the Killjoy utility in the mix. The big kind of difference maker is the early Odin pickup by Jerk, pardon me. He's going to play that over towards Tree. So you want to talk about, again, playing off of the information from the turret. You just wait for that thing to light up, and then you just start spamming through the paper-mache walls. But Winthrop are kind of stuck in a bit of a pickle here. Yeah, you've got Showstopper available for Zach. Oh, and what a set of combination. The C's paint shells perfectly executed. And that'll lead to a wide-open C site.
That's beautiful. Just when Winthrop was able to buy back in and make use of having won that pistol round in the first place, now that Odin looks a lot more awkward. And it's still not convinced that sees where the action's going to be. They're going to be way too late. They're going to have to sit on these weapons.
Yep.
It's going to be a labored save.
And that's the only option. You're absolutely right. I mean, wow. And this is kind of, we heard it in the interview from we did at the end of the last game. It's like, yeah, we want Corey to be on top of the Rays because the ability to combo off the fade has been so potent across VCT and Challengers in the last couple of months, and you're seeing that exactly why. That is Exhibit A. And the jury has decided guilty. I'm pretty convincingly that thing is nasty. So now it's just down to, with the Glazers having some formidable pockets, do they try to chase any of this down? Because you got to keep in mind, they have not revealed that there is an Odin in play at the moment. And I'm sure Winthrop are going to do everything in their power to try to keep that concealed, to have something in the mix moving forward in the next round.
I mean, I want to chase this any day of the week, I think. Even just trading into some of these kills. Moves is going to be able to hole up in Tree and be just fine. Alongside the protected Odin. The Winthrop here now buying around this, I guess there's a question of how they make that happen. Starting to get online. Another round, and they can sort of use the sheer weight of ultimates here to make something happen.
Yes.
But with this level of money, they've got to figure out how to make 2 rifles and an Odin work.
Yeah, and I think there are opportunities for that. I mean, you could go like an SMG or shotgun setup on one side of the map and then trust that the Odin with a little bit of an information gather could kind of be the other side of the defense. So like you could stack with some lesser weaponry and still find a formidable setup overall. But yeah, it's just, how many eggs do you want to put into that basket? Do you really want to throw it all into it just for one round of an Odin? Or do you maybe just play something like kind of like a 5-man stack? And if you have to kind of do the whole rigmarole of saving it again, you could technically do that. I don't know. It's a tough decision moment right here, but this is where Winthrop, I think, has an opportunity to really kind of exfoliate all their advantages of the amount of playtime that they get in a competitive environment through CVAL, as well as, what they've done here in Challengers. They've probably seen this circumstance before in, yeah, there's one Stinger purchased. Will Nasi decide to join in the endeavor? That's the other question.
I mean, and again, it's probably a very different sort of level. I mean, I'm looking through Winthrop's sort of games in CVAL, and they are chilling. They've had a pretty easy time. So it might be easy for you to sort of let your hair down a little bit for some of those games if you feel like, you're outmatching your opponent pretty comfortably. So the switch here to Challengers, where, you're very much on even footing at best, can maybe be a little bit jarring. But so far here, we've seen the same confidence that they've been able to build up through that extra game time, taking these fights quite happily, being more than happy to trade upon these executes. Let's see now. There's a lot of aggression here at that sort of B main for Winthrop, making use of these stingers however they can.
Jerk is going to get a workout here. I mean, this rotation from Winthrop would either have to go the long way through stairs or cut through pillars, where Precision is still watching this. I mean, small door's just not a great option here for Winthrop. There's the reveal. Jerk's now known. Oh, what a bait and switch! I mean, hey, look over here. The sleight of hand. I'm on the one side of the door, and then Riku pops out from the other. Moves, though, gets into side. Almost creates a chance to line up a couple, but only collects one. And the Glazers will surely get their post plant set up here.
One enemy remaining.
Ricky here, they've done a pretty decent job of getting embedded on the side. That's stunning. That was by no means a nothing round from Winthrop. They were really trying to make use of the weapons they were able to take out of the prior round. That's safe. Well, Winthrop goes for naught, essentially.
Yeah, the idea of using the reveal off the haunt into the waiting arms of the Odin comes out completely empty, and then that little bait and switch. Woo! A little different. Hey, look at me.
That's how you do it, right? That's how you play around that Odin position.
Yeah, I mean, make him have to use that thing to spray and pray. More praying than spraying at that moment, I'll tell you that. And now all of a sudden, you've got the Glazers down one all of a sudden, building some big momentum here offensively. I mean, they have created problems all over the map that Winthrop has to deal with.
And again, they force into this and they'll have a Guardi, but outside of that, they've got a decent bit to work with. But that reverse one way is going to force Jerk entirely off the angle. Now forcing to play from a less comfortable spot with their Guardian. And up to his old tricks. Rattle the cage a little bit. Can he draw an overextension out of the 3 players stationed over at A? Precision's free to get ready to build towards that lockdown.
Yeah, a little bit of noise for Ange. I'm sure that Winthrop will not be too particularly bothered by it. I mean, you've got full setup here from the Killjoy, and that's a pretty significant amount of chewing that's going on. I mean, Zach will drop the paranoia, comes out late. Riku's going to get hit by the alarm bot. Has to teleport back out, but damage has already been done, and the clearance is good. The desperate wrap to B is on the way, and there's already a sentry turn here. This is perfect for Winthrop.
Yeah, not the plan B that the Glazers were hoping to put together. 8 shells thrown in there. Infiltrator just misses the timing.
My ultimate is ready.
But Nasi does not. Precision steps up and is caught here from Baby Door. And now you're on your plan C. Never a good sign. Over towards A to make use of the Ange's advanced positioning behind that Viper wall. And you could pump fake this back to B.
Where are you?
It's
They're doing
it. Yeah, I mean, the pump fake is fine, but this is still not a guarantee by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, nice little feel out for Nasi. Uses the From the Shadows just to try to clear out one part of the site. They're going to wait for this dark cover to drop, and then I imagine both angles are going to hit at the same time.
Moves the drone. Ooh. Almost expect them to win them at that point. Big for the attackers, though, now having that extra presence through Hobbit and Baby Door. Riku. Good for one.
Player standing.
And the only position that hasn't been revealed so far, but you can speculate. Process of elimination means that Winthrop are able to come in and come up with a solution. Just as the Glazers were starting to build that head of steam.
Yep, and I will say there is a moment. This is a very winnable round from the Glazers. Those eliminations back towards small door allowed the post plant to stay dynamic and not just be trapped on site. So instead of a 3-point of Ingress retake hit, it just turns into 2. And there's a couple of decent trades early, but again, it's just the separation that you get with the controllers for Winthrop. Too much of a guarantee to recreate space on the retake. So up to a 2-round gap, double digits now hit for Winthrop, but Operator into the mix again for Riku, seeing what they can do with it over towards C. And it looks like we have a bit of a technical pause we're hearing from the side of Winthrop. But the other part of this, Uber, is, as we get to critical mass between these two squads on map number 1, we've got just about the whole buffet line of ultimates at the ready here, save really just Showstopper and, of course, the From the Shadows that we just had.
Yeah, Winthrop finally starting to come up on those, right? Which adds just an extra layer of volatility to a round like this. So often, right, we see that attacking lockdown go down. It forces a fight from the defenders on C, for example. They have to come, they have to challenge it. And at times, we saw the Glazers, Winthrop rather, weren't ready for that fight that the Glazers sort of brought to them. They really tried to lean into that lockdown and take it out. And of course, there's that one round where we saw a Showstopper quite happily used on that. Winthrop here having a couple of mic issues. Just need to make sure that there's no rats in the walls of this state-of-the-art esports facility. And again, the equipment's been getting plenty of use from this squad, as they are not lacking for reps right now, that's for sure.
No, that's absolutely valid. It's interesting, you know, and I don't know, like the panel on it, but I was just kind of curious a couple of weeks ago, you know, like, hey, you know, this is the first university out of CVAL to make it to Challengers. Surely they're wrecking the rest of the CVAL scene. It's actually not the case. They're currently coming up 7th in the power rankings behind teams like both Fisher Schools and St. Clair. So it's like, yeah, you know, there's a lot of teams out there. You know, Blinn made a good run. Northwood's made a good run in the past towards trying to make it in Challengers. It just happens to be that Winthrop found their way through the bracket and now a chance to make it into the midseason cup.
And that's a little bit rough now, and yeah, pretty much gives away the game here to the defenders that A is not the intended location for this spike. Okay, the lockdown here.
Yeah, the Nightfall doesn't really connect, doesn't get any trails. So the lockdown gets used immediately as a counter, and then, whoa, this is a very bizarre lockdown here at mid. Is this trying to pull the defense off C? Is this just a full fake lockdown here?
No charges.
Does it work? Not particularly. Okay, we actually have a detain. You're never going to be able to push into that angle and come out alive. Drones ahead of the molly. That's big. Gets traded out in the end, but Precision's able to make his way up on this B side now. Going to draw that Prowler out, draw out the Showstopper. Precision does go down, and it was Infiltrator. Takes a bit of damage on that exchange, but happy enough. Infiltrator's too low for this. There's no way he gets away with this. Zachary brings him to heal. Now in the post plant. Yes, we do have Riku's operator in play. This Jerku has to walk out into essentially a crossfire.
Wow. I mean, I would be really curious to hear what the comms sounded like between the Nightfall, lockdown number 1, and then lockdown number 2. Because it did feel like off of where Precision dropped the lockdown that he was just kind of using it as a chance to kind of bait out the defense to wrap back away from C, where the only option would be to go all the way into spawn. And even though that doesn't necessarily fully work, Precision still uses this as a chance to kind of self-isolate and pull a bit of a rogue moment through mid, and Winthrop just never get a read fully on where the hit was coming from thanks to that isolated individual kill. And then, like you mentioned, the deep scaling back in towards C Halls, another pretty important moment that Winthrop just don't have the utility to re-clear. It's just kind of one of those rounds that just kind of built very strangely, but Glazers find a way to take advantage of the circumstances in front of them.
I guess like you can't throw a counter lockdown of your own over that same space with like a couple, you know, seconds delay, because you have to get into like contested territory anyway. Like you need to give up a lot of that space out on C-Long, and re-clearing that, you know, carries its own degree of risk. But yeah, really odd round. We sort of mentioned it. It's probably going to be pretty volatile. But that was a lot of the, you know, the ultimates that both teams had built up. I mean, crucially, you know, Winthrop saw Infiltrator making use of the Showstopper there just to make sure that there wasn't any possibility of a B hit. But Zachary's encroaching upon that. There's also a Viper Spit now that comes up in the wake of that lockdown. That's going to be harder to answer for Winthrop now.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I mean, this round, again, this one would be our first Thrifty of the day if this were to come through in the first place. So it's already a difficult round. Winthrop will get free clearance at Mound, though. A little walk up. Moves, utility in hand. Are they looking to maybe take an extra step? Oh, ooh, that's a missed opportunity right there. Infiltrator's going to want that one back.
Well, it's got a Guardian, so what happens on some of that low economy? Riku, more than happy just to post up on that angle for a time, and behind this paranoia, there could be devastation. Nasty, though, tucked on that immediate right. Do they check this? Drone does. Dots his eyes, crosses his T's. Nightfall comes in and moves is more than happy to swing out of C. That is going to call a cancel here for the Glazers. They're not about it.
That is an unbelievable call from Winthrop. I mean, Infiltrator, as soon as he misses that first shot, you think, oh, this play's dead. But moves, channels up the Nightfall, ready to go as soon as there's any other offensive utility spent. And that gets Infiltrator 1, plus the follow-up on the push-through. Still a winnable round here. Gucci able to kind of utilize another late piece of utility to jump in and get another trade. And now you've got a Vandal collected, moves on half HP with the Stinger, and Riku only with an Operator. This is still winnable for Winthrop.
One enemy remaining.
Living dangerously. Precision has the off angle there to punish. Moves looking for a weapon that's serviceable. This will do. Ooh, with that ADS. And the shot delay allows Riku to come in and get that Operator singing.
Wow. An expensive round, though. Really, from a multitude of facets, like for Winthrop, yeah, you're collecting a couple eliminations, but it costs a key ultimate in the form of the Nightfall. On the other side, a couple of repurchases, but largely speaking, the Glazers will be fine because they've built up so much of an economy in these last handful. I mean, again, 5 out of the last 6. So they're right back into the operator being held, full rifles, and this is going to feel like a must-win round here for both of these two teams. This is everything, so expect some fireworks here, whether that be from Zach or from Ange, trying to get this post-plant Viper Spit in play.
Well, the Glazers are going to have an opportunity maybe to answer the can't close a match allegations.
Yeah, true.
Toxins
Starting
going
to get to the pointy end of things here on Lotus. Both these teams trading round for round at times. A lot of Killjoy util to clear here, and Riku again still hasn't found a perfect use case for this operator with so much of this ground being given up. Again, you don't have anything to really fight an operator with when your Viper and Killjoy is out on the C site. This Viper's Pit deployed here.
That's pretty value for the Glazers. I mean, you soften up the setup at C by dealing with, the defensive Killjoy utility, and then you force out the Viper's Pit off, but the Showstopper comes a bit awry. Moobs can still hold this ground, and does he ever? 2 for 2. Unreal trading from Moobs. The site's still open, but he gives his teammates a chance.
Still though, let's make no mistake, the Glazers absolutely favored here now, and attacking Viper's Pit put down. And the Boombox gives a lot of information about their presence on upper. Jerk now into drop, but doesn't really have a target. Needs to wait for Gucci to slowly shimmy down that rope, and the timing is sublime from Zachary. What prescience from him to make the swing at that very moment. Now it's all up to Jerk here. This might be where the dam breaks for Winthrop. It's getting hard to hold up against this consistent pressure that the Glazers have been applying. Checking tree here.
No, this is
checking anti-flank measures, and we're getting out.
Yeah, that was the whole play. I mean, again, this was everything. Look at the credits across the board and the rest of his teammates. And they're going to have to go into a save on 11, which is not what you want. So you get out of there with the Vandal. Gives you some measure of something to look forward. I say look forward to. Gives you a silver linings going into what's going to be essentially a full save around this. You would think they're going to force into this? Surely they don't force into this. That would be crazy. Okay, thank you.
Not quite. Again, it's the awkward part of the match, right? Where you definitely do feel pressure to try and bring the best weapons you can into every single round, because just one thrifty can throw this match entirely on its head. The problem is that one thrifty here won't matter.
Yeah.
The Glazers, too much money.
Yeah. And yeah, Gucci's going to pull out the Bulldogs, so he's not going to have enough to full afford if they lose next round. Or this round, rather. I mean, this is the game in my mind right here. You're going to have a couple of rifles, but I mean, the Glazers aren't going to get punished. I mean, I'm just surprised Winthrop doesn't allow them to essentially get a better look at full buy going into a forced overtime situation. It's a bold call, to say the least.
The Glazers rolled out their anti-eco strategy we saw earlier, where it was a big punish on that push out of B. This time, though, Winthrop don't bite. They do set up there. They maybe wait for some kind of sound cue. They don't get it, so they back away. They are seeding almost the entire map right now.
Placing swarm grenade.
Yeah, this is tall ask for Winthrop. And again, I was like, if this is what our mentality is around this setup, why did we bother pulling another rifle in the mix here? Like, do we really think that he couldn't hold with another SMG? I mean, he's so far to the site, the Bulldog's not even going to be a part of this defense at all. This is a 3 site for the Glazers and a post plant that's going to be very difficult to break down with Stingers and the Spectre.
Effectively a trick. So they've eliminated so many of these possibilities for the defenders. Snakebite there, a little maladroit in its placement. Riku, paranoia, here comes Infiltrator, Satchel's in. Now has a decent gun to work with, immediately traded out by Zachary there. It's going to be moves though. Winthrop, the defenders, unreal.
What?
Come in with a messy buy and have no map control whatsoever. What a way to make a statement.
And I don't know if we'll see the replay with the overhead, but the utility placement is chef's kiss. I mean, the snakebite paint shells are just there to see if they can make a little bit of damage happen on the person planning, but it's the paranoia that cuts right behind all of that, followed by the smoke placement to block off long, and then of course Infiltrator, the catalyst towards that retake with the double burst right back into sight, finding a kill, the instant upgrade onto a weapon, creates the space for his teammates to follow up and also collect it. All of a sudden we've got ourselves a game of Valorant again. Oh man.
I mean, Winthrop up. Tremendous. Full buy now. Infiltrator getting awfully close to a showstopper. Nightfall on the line as well. Zachary double satches himself now up into upper. So that 3 times without stuttering. Moves just cut down to the door. The paranoia is there, but I mean, the crosshairs were already placed well in advance. What a answer back here from the Glazers. They can keep this clean. It would be devastating. And that showstopper is going to do what exactly?
Nothing. And all of that is because Zach, his burst through, all of a sudden gives them a different angle at this post plant. You just don't have to reveal anything, but Winthrop are still finding a couple of the kills. Zach finally reveals the play, but the Jerk can't quite snap over. Good double face from the Glazers, and they're going to get the map point.
All right, so the good news is there's some money for Winthrop to work with here.
Yes.
Like, generally, they can still have a functional buy coming into a round like this. Of course, the Glazers, not an issue for them. Might be worth even examining the ultimates here, which there are 5 in play. Crucially, that lockdown for precision has come up at just the right time.
Oh, man. Yeah, good time to call a timeout, I'd say. And here's the thing is, like, what we've seen so far from the Nightfalls, like, Moobs is happy to use it before there's even an instance of we know where they're going. You talk back a couple of rounds previously where there was that little play with Infiltrator at C Mound. With the Guardian, Moobs uses an aggressive Nightfall to get in play with a Stinger, and the trades are decent, gives them a chance at that round. They've used that kind of aggressively and proactively a number of times. Where on the flip side, you know, we've kind of more often than not see the Twilight or the Nightfall for the side of the Glazers kind of be used as a way to stall out a retake. They really haven't used it for an execute. So will they continue to try to use that in similar form, or will there be something new cooked up during this timeout?
I think we've a couple of rounds so far this match said, oh, this could be the game right here. But both these teams keep subverting our expectations, especially Winthrop more recently with that huge, thrifty win on the retake. And that's the risk of Lotus, right? Again, you're playing so compact on these sites in the post plan as attackers who are susceptible to some of those weaker buys. Speaking of which, see the Infiltrator has bought just that into this round.
Yeah, the order of operations here for the Glazers is what's really got my curiosity. Do we lock down first to get the clearance on the site and then save the post plant Nightfall? Or do we try to create a Venn diagram potentially if Jerk can earn his lockdown and you just kind of save Precision's lockdown for the hold? Because that's going to be, I think, the big difference here. And maybe even, I think, ideally, the Glazers are like, maybe we can just get a free entry and just have both these for a post plant, win the round off that.
Orb secured here. Zachary can theoretically get a showstopper off. Space taken here towards A Long though. Winthrop have a brief foray a little bit past that line of scrimmage. See nothing though. And Stack. Or decide rather to stack differently.
I love this from Winthrop though. That quick little moment of aggression. You know, you can re-stack over towards C. That Nightfall is kind of a bit of a bait though. But Winthrop haven't taken it. They're still holding their defense deep over towards A, and the Glazers, they may think they can just walk up this freely, but Nas is on the corner. Nasi's got the timing, but only catches one. Information transmitted, and the defense starts to move over to assist, but there's going to be a showstopper here with the Storm collected.
Infiltrator's not in a good position to make use though of this Stinger. Just not where you want the SMG player to be, but he's still able to find the elimination and on the play with a showstopper no less. Satchel, break the crosshair placement, but Drone's a little bit too canny for that. This lockdown now is going to make the space for the Glazers to move in behind. 3 versus 2, but good guns up for Winthrop. No utility to speak of for the defenders, though. They're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way, and Riku, they just spotted a player at drop.
All the contact here at stairs could be everything. Wall goes back up. Gucci holds the angle, finds the 1v1, but now it's just down to Jerk on the other side. Knows he has to isolate over towards Tree, but doesn't find the shot.
Attackers win.
Oh! What an affair in the last handful of rounds there, Uber. But the Glazers come out and they still have a chance at making the midseason cup by winning the map pick of Winthrop. Again, to reiterate, they need a 2-0, but wow, fireworks here early in this series.
Extremely scrappy. Very volatile game, right? Kind of what we expected coming in here, but the Glazers get themselves, their second map win of this stage of challenges in general. And they do it beautifully. It was very, very close. Winthrop definitely showing us that they're no slouches when it comes to this Lotus map. But now there's a question of the Glazers being able to keep themselves in challenges. That's a very big deal. Something we're going to talk about and much more after we come back from a short word from our sponsors.
face.